Welcome to another edition of 12.5 Minutes. My name is Jared Kelly. I'm with my friend and co-host Liz Whitehead.
Hi, Jared.
So good to see you.
You too.
Now, we have something special for our last episode, and this is still another opportunity for us to address some of the crazy, scary, genius, and hilarious topics that we've talked about throughout the seasons. But let's do it a little differently, right? We have something that I think might be interesting to follow up on. So let's do some predictions about what we think might happen in the near future, and then, put it on record and see if we can look back on this and see, if we were right. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Am I going first? I'll go first.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was just thinking, let's jump into this and find a way to get our brain stirring and see what we can come up with on the spot. So go ahead.
Okay. So I was thinking about things that we've talked about before, things we've talked about this season and previous seasons. And so the first thing I was thinking about was AI and the fear, the tension that a lot of entry level jobs, a lot of middle manager jobs, a lot of jobs will be replaced because AI is going to do that work. So my prediction is that as we're talking about AI, the next big wave of things we're going to be talking about is how people work, you know, and what work means to people. Because right now we work to live. We have to work. We have to work to have insurance. We have to work to pay our rent. We have to work for food. But if there's not that intersection of jobs to provide that, then there's going to have to be some other way to provide for people. As Kara Swisher, who's like a tech intellectual says, you're either going to have to learn to provide for these people or bulletproof your Tesla. That, there's got to be a way to do it. So I think that's going to be the next big conversation, which is not even whether we should do it, but what way. There's, a movement for guaranteed basic income, which is primarily based at low income people. There's universal basic income, which is that everyone would get, a basic amount, and then you're free to do, free to make more than that if you need to. Um, but I think that's really interesting. I also have been listening to the Pope's encyclical. I've been reading that and the conversation around it. And a lot of it is about the dignity of work, how work is essential to our humanity, essential to our communities. So it's like, what's gonna replace the actual work, though? I think that's a question I still have.
Mm, I like that. I can bridge off that. I would say these things come to mind first. When it comes to employment, I believe that large companies are going to be the ones that will um, continue to reduce the amount of workforce. But I believe that small businesses will make up 20% of that reduction by growing their employment, right? So there will be
Sure.
some offset. It won't be 100%, but there will be growth from small businesses employing AI because they don't have all the software engineers. They don't have the technicians. They don't have um, the specialists, even those that we know will be required, such as engineers, electricians, plumbers, all the stuff that we depend on, uh, that AI depends on, is still going to be required, right? So those small businesses will have to grow, even if we get into vehicles and transportation, the trains and everything else in Chicago. I don't imagine them running on AI, but even if they did, there's still going to need to be people involved with our transportation
Well,
systems.
let's hope because we've seen how the autonomous vehicles things are going.
Right, right, right. And we can get to that. The other thing too that I'm going to add to the complexity of what you described would be that before the erosion of our workforce, it will be an erosion of our educational system.
Mm.
Now, here's the logic behind that. In Chicago, we are getting our first AI kind of elementary school. They're starting that
What
downtown,
what does that mean?
right? Most of like 90% of the instruction is through AI educators, right? Okay. The second part of that is there have been universities, and you will find this more. There are universities that are mistakenly, I'm going to put that in there, mistakenly getting enterprise level AI installed for their campus. The reason why that's going to be problematic is one, they don't know what the cost is going to be. Uh, Tokens, like AI is building tokens, and the amount of money spent retrieving and sending information to AI will multiply on them way faster than they realize.
Oh yeah.
Secondarily, guardrails. Without guardrails, now what are humans learning out of our education system? Whatever AI is teaching them? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thirdly,
I don't like that elementary school idea at all. Like that's
and and thirdly, if you erode the educational system, then what does the workforce become?
yeah. Well, and maybe we'll see a renaissance of the trades, like you're saying. There's some things like AI itself can't fix my toilet. Somebody needs to be there
Yeah,
doing the
yeah,
stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah, maybe there'll be a whole renaissance in that arena.
So that'll be something to look out for, definitely. So since you brought it up, all right, so let's take a little bit of a turn into autonomous vehicles.
Your favorite.
Autonomous. My favorite, well, I have a certain brand that I particularly rag about, but what's your thought before I start griping?
So, my thought on this, I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but we talked about a criminal who brought in a whole bunch of drugs to Poland, I think it was, in a Skims truck, right? It was in a Skims truck. And, I think we were talking about that he undersold his services. There was like millions of dollars in drugs and he didn't get paid too much.
Right.
But,
And this is to give context. This is Kim Kardashian's apparel brand Skims. She had nothing to do with it.
right.
The guy that was transporting the product for Skims was arrested for transporting drugs. Go ahead.
Yes, he was just an enterprising criminal taking advantage of something else. Yes. And, but what if the truck did not have to be driven by a human? What if it was an autonomous vehicle that was transporting these things? So, okay, it gets caught, but you have no information. You don't really know, where the truck was coming from. You don't have anyone to arrest. Um, I think it's an interesting little wrinkle in the autonomous vehicle project.
Yeah, I don't know how we can take advantage of that. But I would think that yes, I think it's going to be attempted. I do think that all vehicles. Here's my prediction.
Okay.
Here's my prediction. In the United States, I think this is already being done, but it will increase. Um, these companies will learn to register each vehicle as its own company.
Oh, okay.
I just made that up off the top of my head. The reason being is because Don't expose your entire organization. If one vehicle becomes the problem, right,
Hmm.
and there's no driver and it gets caught and it's impounded, well, they're going to look up who owns that vehicle,
Right.
right? You don't want the vehicle to be a part of a fleet of vehicles, right? Because then that exposes the whole organization. You got
Yeah.
one vehicle. So if I was asked as a consultant to help an enterprising organization, I would say that is what I would do. And I would ensure and look at the pattern of increases in LLCs that really are in the transportation business, but it's one vehicle at a time.
Mm.
Yep.
To be clear, you're not doing that consulting right now.
I would though. You know, if
Oh,
anybody's watching or listening, yeah, it's just advice, you know. I'm just a creative thinker. But on so here's the thing.
okay.
Let me add to what you're saying. The topic of autonomous vehicles, I think, is important. I do think that there are companies. I'm I'm kind of a anti-Waymo guy. All right, the brand particularly, because of so many instances that I've seen primarily through social media, very bad decisions made individually by vehicles and collectively as teams of bad decision-making vehicles. Um, and I just think that it's going to get to a point if they come to Chicago that Chicago will be the first city to have residents turn over a Waymo vehicle. When I say turn over, meaning the wheels will be in the air.
Oh, they didn't do that in LA?
I
Or
didn't
they
see
just
it.
stood on top of the Waymo,
They stood
maybe.
on top of it. Right, right.
Right. Which is also disrespectful, I
That
think.
yes, but I do believe at some point in time people will revolt, and, and this city of ours would be likely to be the first one to go. Oh, you're gonna just stay there? You're just gonna sit there? Oh, I do believe residents will get out of their car and flip that car over and get it out the way. I do believe.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to make that prediction
So
that Chicago will be.
both of our scenarios talk about impending revolt so far.
I,
Um, yeah, one is to mitigate it, and one is that it's definitely happening. Um, do we have any good predictions? My next one is not good.
I think I have a good one. We
Okay.
had a great conversation about women in business and particularly women in sports and the combination of how enterprising individuals look at the disparity when it comes to sports and Unrivaled was an example. Um, when professional women basketball players come together and they think to themselves, you know what, we're not getting paid enough through the WNBA. We have extra time, we have the skill set, and we have a need to have more value for what we bring to the table. We need to get more value for what we bring to the table. They come up with a company. I think I still stand on that as being perfect. And I also believe that it becomes a blueprint for additional women's sports. And I would predict that even before soccer, I think women's volleyball could follow the same trajectory in terms of escalating to a high value sport that women get paid for and recognized by. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. So, what are the things behind this prediction? Why volleyball and not soccer or softball?
I think two things. Volleyball has multiple formats, so it can be all season long. It's a sport that we value in terms of summer Olympics. So there's already contingency there that supports that um, that I would say that brand of sport. And then it's on television. It's just not on major stations. So they already see a value in it because it wouldn't be on television if it wasn't, right?
Right.
College volleyball is watched just as much as pro volleyball. Just people in general, the public may not know their names yet. But then when you look at the physicality, the athletes are probably on average taller than the WNBA. They have, I would say, an appeal that is much more broader than the WNBA. And
You're
when it, co-
tiptoeing around this nicely.
and when it comes down to it, it's a fun sport to watch for men and women.
Nicely done. Nicely done. That is a good one. Mine was also sports related, but we could maybe talk about it later, or maybe we'll end on a high note. Who knows? Um, I think it's really interesting. I also like what you said about the blueprint for the sport that it, it can operate differently than sports. There doesn't have to be a men's version, and this is the W, blah, blah, blah. I like that idea too, that here, no, we can start our own thing. There's enough popular female athletes, former athletes that will, and there's money, right? We talked about the transfer of wealth and all of that stuff. There's going to be more money in the hands of women, and that can make something like this happen outside of the traditional sports that we've already seen.
I think so. So that's positive. That's a great
Yeah,
prediction.
everything comes together. I think that's a good note to end on because I think there's going to be a plague at the World Cup.
But okay.
So, okay, that's it. Bye.
Wait. So you're just gonna drop that bomb like, okay, so in sports, we're now thinking about soccer and we're thinking about FIFA World Cup this summer, starting
Yes.
this month, all of the people that are coming in internationally to support their teams right now, you're
Yep.
thinking that by the end of this summer, we will, in the United States, be experiencing a.
It'll be some sort of super spreader event. I
Okay.
think, yeah.
So your prediction is we should be investing back in masks and,
Yes.
and any pre-pandemic uh, supplies.
Hysteria that you want to involve yourself in. Yes, that there's going to be that yeah, there's going to be people coming from all over. And I and there's a couple things that are on the rise now and that we might not even know about because a lot of those institutions that would be, projecting, preparing, they've been gutted. So I think we might just not even know what we're getting into.
So we have no protection. This is just going in raw, just no protection. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. But I don't have a ticket because they were too expensive. So I'll
No,
just watch it on TV.
hilarious, hilarious. Well, my last prediction, I think, then, with on that note, is that we'll be back for another season of 12.5 minutes. My name is Jared Kelly. This is Liz Whitehead, and we are out of here. Thanks for watching
Bye.
and listening. We'll talk to you soon.